Should it stay or should it go? I'm going to talk about that today. Hey everyone, my name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami and Miami Beach. I work with my husband, Ognjen Prezzi. If this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another update. We put out videos every week. Also use the link in our information box and download our free guide today. Okay, so lately I've had situations, and some of my colleagues have also said that they have had situations, sellers are removing things on the property that they are not supposed to remove. Now, I'm going to be speaking in general terms here, just based on the contract that we have. But if you have any questions about what should stay and what should go, it's on the contract. There is a part of the contract on this particular contract. This is the as-is residential contract that we use a lot here in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And if you start at line 15, it basically says all the things that are supposed to stay on the property. And then there is another line that says what should be excluded. Now, generally speaking, the contract ultimately dictates what stays and what goes. Generally speaking, things like appliances, blinds, and light fixtures should stay with the property unless otherwise excluded. And lately I have had situations, and again, colleagues have also said that they've had situations where sellers are removing blinds, draperies is on here too, that it should stay unless it's excluded, light fixtures, chandeliers, just things that they're not supposed to remove. So if you have questions or any concern about leaving things or taking things, please, if you're a buyer or a seller, please address these things when you are negotiating the sales contract and before everything gets that final execution signature. It's just very important because it can create major issues on the closing day. Now, if you are a buyer and you want something, obviously make sure you put it on the contract. Now, one of the biggest things that everyone should do prior to closing is to do a final walkthrough, and make sure you do this walkthrough on the day of closing because things can happen from one day to the next day. So you want to make sure that when you get to the closing table that you have done a walkthrough in advance to make sure everything is okay that day. Don't do it a few days before, don't do it the weekend before, do it on the day of closing. Also, another really big thing that creates issues with buyers at closing is sellers leaving behind a lot of junk and trash on the property. A lot of times sellers will say, oh, bulk trash pickup is coming on day. Well, is that okay for the buyer that you're leaving your mattress and your couch and all the junk that you didn't want out on the property when they are going to close on the property? It's something that you really need to sort of say, would I want someone to do this to me? So please don't do these things without having these discussions with your agent or your attorney, and also making sure that the buyer is okay with these things. A lot of times sellers will say to me, oh, well, you know, I left the paint in the garage for them because I thought they would want to use the paint or know the paint color. Maybe they're not going to keep that paint color. Maybe they want the paint color, but they are going to buy fresh paint and they don't want your old paint because they have to find somewhere to dispose it. So please, very important, don't do these things because you create issues at closing. Also, another important thing for buyers to know is when sellers go to sell a property, what is your expectation for how that property should be turned over? And sellers, what is your expectation for how you are supposed to turn it over? And when I say that, I mean the condition of the cleanliness. What should the pool look like? What should the yard look like? Should the refrigerator still have all of your groceries from last week in it? No. Should we have a bunch of junk underneath the kitchen counter? No. So really make sure that you think about these things. And I always say, just put yourself in the buyer's situation. How would you want and expect a property to be turned over to you? Buyers and sellers often go through a, long 45-day of negotiations here and there. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. And that last day is really that last impression that you leave on each other. And why not try to make it at least a decent one? Anyways, there's just a lot to know about buying and selling real estate in our area. Very often, buyers and sellers have certain expectations and things that they are and are not going to do. And I highly recommend that before you make any big decisions about what you're going to take or what you're thinking you're going to just leave behind, to make sure you speak with your real estate agent and attorney so that you're leaving the house in the proper condition as it should be, and you don't create issues for yourself on that last day of closing. Sometimes some of these issues you create can create an issue in terms of being not in compliance with the contract, and that's not a place that is a good place to be on the day of closing. If you have more questions about buying or selling real estate in our area, we're always here to be a resource for you, and we will see you soon.